deferred a lot of questions to her husband today. There were at least a dozen times when she said, "You'll have to ask my husband that. I can't answer that." So we already had a big portfolio of questions for him, and that increased yesterday.
We have real questions that deserve serious answers from former President Clinton, and we have said from day one that Democrats want to talk to anyone, whether they are a Republican or a Democrat, no matter how powerful they are, whatever position that they've been in.
MJ Lee is there in Chappaqua. MJ, President Clinton just released his prepared remarks that he is delivering behind closed doors. What did he say?
Yeah, this all has started just about an hour ago, and we just got his opening remarks that he delivered to the House Oversight Committee. And it's clear, Dana, that there are two things that he is going to emphasize. One, he is going to deny any wrongdoing on his part. And second, he will deny that he knew anything about Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. This is a part of what he told lawmakers. He said, "First, I had no idea of the crimes Epstein was committing. No matter how many photos you show me, I have two things that at the end of the day matter more than your interpretation of those 20-year-old photos. I know what I saw, and more importantly, what I didn't see. I know what I did, and more importantly, what I didn't do. I saw nothing, and I did nothing wrong." And Dana, importantly, he also previewed in his opening remarks that he was often going to answer questions with the words, "I don't recall." He said he's simply not going to say something that he is not sure of. And he emphasized that all of these events took place many years ago. And he predicted, too, that probably those answers were not going to be satisfying to the lawmakers inside that deposition room. All of this goes to show you just already how different today is from yesterday when Hillary Clinton was deposed in front of the same panel. Bill Clinton, as a reminder, did have a relationship with Epstein. He traveled on Epstein's planes. They were together photographed in the Epstein files, including in some photos where the former president is pictured with co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell or other women who were redacted. We expect this to be, Dana, a really long day. Yesterday, for reference, went just about 7 hours, including that interruption in the middle of the day. And lawmakers have said today could be an even longer day than that. And even some of the Democratic members that I've spoken with, they have said they are prepared for very tough questions for Bill Clinton, given how much he is seen throughout the Epstein files. One other thing I just want to note about Hillary Clinton is that Bill Clinton, in his opening remarks, said that he wanted to say something personal, that he believed that it was absolutely not right for these lawmakers to bring in his wife for a deposition yesterday. Clearly, the sparks have been flying. The political theater has been on full display as it pertains to Hillary Clinton's deposition, including Congresswoman Nancy Mace this morning saying that Hillary Clinton had been screaming and was unhinged as a part of the deposition yesterday. When I asked a Hillary Clinton spokesperson, Nick Merrill, about this, this is what he said. He said she is full of shit. This is talking about Congresswoman Mace, and that Hillary Clinton was actually just appalled that the Congresswoman wouldn't let the former Secretary of State answer a question about 9/11. Obviously, this is all completely out of context, and we're not going to know the context until we get the transcript and the full videos of the deposition, Dana.
Yeah, and just on what President Clinton just said behind closed doors about his wife, he said she nearly traveled with him, meaning Epstein, nor visited any of his properties. Whether you subpoenaed 10 people or 10,000, including her, was simply not right. MJ, thank you so much. Keep us posted if you hear or see anything during this testimony or when it's over, of course.